Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street, small business lenders who help it grow. Lance Sexton, undisclosed location in Arkansas. Katie Watucky, our editor, soon to be in an undisclosed location in Seattle. Katie, when are you moving?
That will be second week of August.
All right, and Katie and Chris Hearn, CEO, founder, Fountainhead Capital. Chris is a good friend. And Chris, how's your business?
Business is great. Been busy. Maybe too great sometimes, perhaps. Gotta be careful. Yep.
Hey, I want to thank you. Oh, okay. There's the certificates for those of you who are new. Please download those, save those. That answers the question for SBA and your regulators. What are you doing for training? Hey, thank you very much. We launched this the other day. We got our first order. And what this product is, it's for directors, for your C-suite. They don't need to know how to process a PPP loan, but they certainly need to have in the back of their minds what is PPP and when does it expire and how's it work. So, and the nice thing about this, it's an unlimited site license. You buy it once for the $697. You can send it to whoever you want it at your institution.
That's awesome.
Hey, when will forgiveness guidance be released? This is a guess. Notice Lance and I do not have our June 30th date on there because
we need to have it.
Go ahead.
You know, I'm going to shoot now that everybody's had an opportunity to punch their answer in. I'm thinking August 3rd.
I'm hoping. I agree with you, but I'm hoping the August 7th response at 44% is correct. 10% are optimistic. Say we're going to get it next week. It ain't going to happen.
Well, the administrator last Friday actually said it was going to be August. So I'm going to. You don't have it on. I'm going to say Monday, August 10th. That's what I think.
Right.
Nice guess. That's enough.
Chris, what's the context? When did she testify or say that it would be released in August?
I believe the Senate hearing was Friday morning. She was there along with the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin, and he talked a lot about PPP forgiveness, and she talked a lot about how forgiveness they plan to release it sometime in August. So, other than that, there wasn't a whole lot else. I don't think.
Chris, I know there's bipartisan support for forgiveness of smaller loans. Do we know what that threshold is?
150 and below is what has been in the bill that's been proposed that has bipartisan support. But there are some trade associations that are trying to push for 250 and below. There's some others that are pushing for the 350, which of course is the maximum on the smallest.
I think ICBA is or maybe it's ABA. The answer is there are some trade associations pushing for that. However, Chris, as a lender, our stats show the average loan size is 107,000, Katie. So even 150, I would imagine, would be a great paperwork reduction for your shop.
Yeah, they say that's going to cover like 80+% of all PPP loans made. So it will be hugely beneficial for not only the lending community, but also for the borrowers who won't have to go through so much of that burden, the documentation, the calculations, the submissions, and hopefully they can just operate their business, which is what we need them to, so we can turn the economy around.
Let's go to our last poll question. This is sort of we want to give you content that you can't get anywhere else, and four of these 5 companies have declared bankruptcy. Which one has not? Answers are, all right. I think say Target has.
2% is wishful thinking of bankers thinking Brooks Brothers didn't declare bankruptcy, right?
Yeah, wow. I'm impressed. Good for all of you for staying on top of the news. I thought for sure I thought I'd get someone on Pier 1. Actually, go back to the results. I think I got 2% on Pier 1. Joseph.
No, 2% on Brooks Brothers.
Oh, Brooks Brothers. Oh, shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame on you for that.
I think Pier 1 declared first of all the ones listed, didn't they? Or maybe it was...
I think they were second. Oh, of this list, I think they might have been first, but I think they were the second this year.
Yeah.
Hey, the reason why we asked this question, in all seriousness, Lance, is we're
We lost your vote.
Yep. Can't hear you.
Bob, we can't hear you right now. You need to unmute yourself.
all right. How's that,
There we
Michael?
go.
Okay. Good,
Yeah.
deal.
There we go.
Good deal.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I guess too many people are on the internet these days. Hey, the seriousness on this is you need to know who that main anchor tenant is if you're going to be financing someone in a mall. Of course, in California, all the malls are closed, so that's bad for revenues. Chris, what is your shop doing in terms of evaluating these type of factors?
You're talking about in terms of potential for bankruptcy?
No, in terms of location. Are you concerned if they're in a mall who the anchor is? Does that go into your credit analysis?
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely something that we look for. I mean our malls are open here they're open here in Central Florida. I can't say that in South Florida they're open, but people have masks everywhere if they're going to a mall. You know, there's been a lot of media recently about malls being converted into you know, industrial warehouses essentially because of how much e-commerce. What's that?
I read the one's going into a marijuana growing operation.
Well, yeah, that's probably coming if it's not our year as well. But I think with all the e-commerce, there's so much need for inventory storage that I think a lot of these malls, you know, they've got great access in and out for trucks and obviously very high ceilings for storage. I mean, I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, we saw maybe a decade ago a lot of malls, some of the tenants, major retail tenants being converted into fitness centers, which also seemed pretty logical. So we'll see what happens. But I think, yeah, you got to be careful these days. You got to truly understand the business model of the businesses that you're financing for sure.
SBA said on their quarterly call that they are mandating in the underwriting of both 7A and 504, they want it to be addressed on how this company, how the potential borrower is planning in this new environment. What are they doing for COVID, and what are they doing vis-a-vis exactly what we talked about, bankruptcy and anchor tenants, so that they want that to be addressed.
Yeah, we actually have a 5-question COVID-19 questionnaire essentially that asks what they're doing, what's different now versus what they were doing before, you know, what kind of preparations they've got going forward, a variety of different things that I think should be sufficient for SBA for underwriting.
Okay. Russell's jumping the boat, but let's go ahead and here's our poll question. Then I will read Russell's comment. Do you agree with the President Jim that we will have an economic recovery in 2021?
That's a tough one, Bob.
Yes, 45, no, 34. Russell says this is a bad question. If you drop 50% in 2020 and you recover 10%, is that considered a recovery? Good point, Russell.
That's an excellent question. I think that there is a possibility for a recovery. I think the first part of 2021 will be kind of rough, but I think toward the end of 2021, we'll start seeing some recovery.
There's a lot of bankers, a lot of liquidators, a lot of servicers that are going to be making their money. Raman, I love Raman. I love your questions. He always asks the questions. So let's bring Katie into the conversation. Raman wants to know what's going on with P4.
Well, there's not a lot of an update yet. I've been kind of watching the House and the Senate recently, and they just got back this week. So we should start to see stuff like P4 and some of the other proposed bills slowly working through the system starting this week and possibly into the next week.
Yeah, usually August is a slow month. It's not going to be slow this time around, gang.
No.
No.
Chris, you and I had asked you earlier, is there a comment that you would like to leave with the audience? And why don't you go ahead and jump in on what you feel we should do as an industry for networking, forging relationships with our legislatures?
Well, as Katie just said, this is going to be a very busy August. It's going to be a very busy next couple of weeks since they got back from recess yesterday. There's a lot of bills that have been proposed, a lot of things relating to small business, a lot of things relating to economic recovery. Not all of it's going to get passed, of course, but there seems to still be a bias for action right now. We will see what happens in the days ahead. But I would say, Bob, that it helps to be involved. It helps to know your congressman or woman. It helps to know your senators, to represent to them that you're a lender to small businesses, and that these things are important. And they're important because, as we all know, small business is what we all do. This is the backbone of the American economy. It's pretty obvious when we look at the economy.
What they want to hear is they want to be able to drive down on Main Street in one of their cities and point out to that building and say, hey, the
That's
government financed through an SBA. They really don't care too much about Fountainhead. I mean, obviously they do. But they said, hey, this is a 504 loan and employs X amount of people, translation back of the mind, voters. So that's very important.
What they don't want to see, Bob, is driving down Main Street and see a bunch of things boarded up and shut down.
Unfortunately.
So that is why you're going to see a lot of action out of Washington over the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Good. What do we got for data, Katie? Oh, before we go to that, I want to ask, I want to go through the numbers, but before we're going to that, Chris, Katie, do you see any lessening of the bipartisan coalition, I shouldn't say coalition, of the bipartisan support that Congress is showing both in the House and the Senate for these type of programs, or are we starting to see outliers breaking from the pack?
I've pretty much seen a lot of bipartisan support, especially for moving forward what we're going to do with the new money or the remaining funds.
Oh, now we lost Katie.
We lost Katie.
We lost Katie. All right. Hey, Katie, short and sweet. I love it. Are you back with us, Katie? No, I think that.
I would say, Bob, on that point, I think that there's still a lot of bipartisan discussion about this because this is an election year and these things are so very important. We don't want to see businesses close up. Having said that, there are some cracks. I mean, I think there's some discussions about, wow, we've spent a lot of money and maybe we got to spend a lot more, and how are we going to pay for it? And hopefully the coalitions can stay together a little bit longer so that we can live to fight another day. I think that's generally the consensus in D.C. today.
Well, I mean, these numbers are amazing. 5 million loans, over 5,000 participating lenders, $500 billion in, call it SBA lending. All of us would have gotten broke by saying, oh, there's no way that would happen a year ago. So obviously,
and it's not enough. That's the problem.
Yeah,
it's not going to be probably enough for the U.S. economy overall. We're going to have more trillions.
Hey, Bob, the cool thing in that last slide was it indicated there was more volume in SBA lending and PPP than the entire history of the SBA lending program.
Wow.
60 plus years.
Well, Lance and I, you and I have been around long enough. Back in the 80s, we wanted to kill this horrible program. It was definitely bipartisan. The Republicans wanted to kill it. Democrats wanted to support it. Then all of a sudden, the Republicans in the 90s say, hey, zero subsidy. It pays for itself. And the Democrats wanted to get rid of it. And now it's religion. It's going, hey, you know what? On the approval scales of jobs in the country, a small business owner, they're pretty high up there on the approval scale.
Could you imagine where we didn't have SBA right now and the industry hadn't mobilized? I mean, it's just staggering, isn't it?
Yeah, and that, if we have this program, I'm sorry, Lance, I'll let you jump in. If we didn't have this program, then Chris, your apocalyptic view of plywood on a main street would definitely be more prevalent. Go ahead, Lance.
Bob, you bring up an excellent point, especially for those who've only been in SBA lending for a few years. In my career, there have been 3 separate times where people have tried to eliminate the SBA program.
Only 3?
I'm not talking about reduction. I'm talking about elimination. And it's amazing to be in this time period. I think the first big step was when the administrator was made part of the cabinet. That was a huge step. And now SBA is the sweetheart of federal agency. So,
Well, it's a direct pipeline to jobs and to create a strong Main Street. Absolutely. Hey, Katie, are you back with us? Nope, Katie is not with us. Sorry, Katie. Yeah. Katie, we hopefully Seattle has something called the internet. Maybe that'll.
Bob, everyone should move to Radio Shack.
There you go.
Internet.
There you go.
Katie put together this nice chart, and this came from the data, and we put this together. You can use this. You can source this. It's no problem. And we decided to do a industry analysis of where these loans are going. Healthcare, I was a little shocked at that. But Lance, I'm looking down here, and restaurants, they don't rate very highly, do they?
Well, there's not a huge surprise because Chris and I both worked PPP loans as they went through the system and got approved. And I remember a ton of healthcare projects, a lot of social-related businesses and nonprofits, engineering firms, accounting firms, construction firms, manufacturing, food service. While I saw quite a few of those, it was not a majority, and you would have expected it to be the majority.
Regular CSCOs, yeah. Speaking of construction, number 3 on the list, almost 500,000 loans, and we're going to be doing a construction webinar, how to look at construction loans, given SBA's new guidance on what they want in the underwriting and overall trends and how you should be doing your credit box. Chris, Chris, you're a construction lender, aren't you? You partner with people?
Yep, absolutely.
Any major underwriting box corrections you've made?
We're just a lot more careful right now.
Define careful. Define that.
Well, we're if someone wants to construct something right now, we want to make sure it makes sense to be doing it. So, we are looking at some hotel construction, basically because it's 18 to 24 months from now by the time you get to completion. And we think that having a good mid-tier flagged property in a good market that's got, we have to be very current on our feasibility study to make sure there's some demand for it. But we think that'll be important a year and a half, 2 years from now, because, I think you just want to be the newest girl on the block, so to speak. But I think, other facets, we've certainly had some heart-to-heart discussions with potential borrowers about, do we think this is the time right now to be taking on this kind of debt, to be building something, or should we pause and should we wait a few months and let's see what kind of how their business is coming out of the shutdown. And so I think there's a lot of lenders having those discussions. I think there's a lot of lenders looking at month-to-month comparisons, 19 versus 20 for every month, for instance. I think there's a lot of, if you're lending to hospitality industry, you're looking at monthly STAR reports to see what's happened to RevPAR and occupancy and rates. And it's just, people are having to be a lot more careful these days, obviously.
And rightly so. Hey, we certainly don't want to turn this program into an all, 100% negative, but there are negative reports that come out from time to time. We try to balance the good news with the I don't want to say bad, with the reality, what's going on. And when you see these type of reports, I'm not saying that this is truth. I'm not saying, because it's a projection, but we put this in there. That's something for you to think about. Chris, any of those stats stand out in your analysis?
Well, I can't say I'm surprised by some of these, what they're citing. I think if there's been a lot of companies that have been operating remotely for 3 or 4 months at this point, and I think fairly successfully. So What's not on here is I imagine the monthly rents are gonna decrease substantially if they haven't already in a dense place like Manhattan. I go to Manhattan for business, or at least used to go to Manhattan about every 6 to 8 weeks, and I haven't been there obviously since late February, and I got to tell you, it's going to be a little eerie walking around Manhattan next time I go.
Yeah,
I have a feeling.
The one I love is, I have no idea why New York City should use city's restaurant letter grading systems to rank post-COVID sanitary measures of public buildings. Come on. I don't know.
Well, and the one comment that's good for Chris and good for the state of Texas is if they raise the income tax on the wealthy, they're all going to move to Florida and Texas.
That's right.
Well,
They've already been moving to Florida and Texas for a few years now, but yes, I think it's going to accelerate. I have a feeling.
And to go down that rabbit hole, California looks like we're going to lose a congressional seat in the census.
Wow. It's crazy.
Okay, two quick questions. Alicia says, will MSLB be reviewed as it is so viewed as unpopular? The answer to that, I would say, is yes. And I got a long question from Theo, which I'm going to hold over tomorrow because I don't want to, it's going to take me about 30 seconds to read it. So we'll redo that and we'll do that tomorrow. Hey, Katie, let's see, I guess thanks for showing up halftime. And here we go. We got some, these are the retail bankruptcies so far this year. Again, just more information.
Yeah, hey, Bob, I want to end the show on a good note. All
please.
of us invest at times, but there are retail businesses that are doing incredible. One from my home state, Walmart, is killing it. Dollar General is doing incredible. Tractor Supply, another incredible performer. So there are businesses that are doing incredibly well during
this period. And I think that's the takeaway of this show is just take an extra couple minutes and take a look at where the borrower is in the new normal, because if we really, you need to throw out the stats from on how to underwrite in 2019. We need to come up with the new dynamic in 2020. As I said, we're going to talk about construction lending and the new traps and the new things you should do. And obviously, we moved. Joseph, just put PPP forgiveness updated. TBA.
Just say to be determined. TBD.
Yeah, we're going to go just to be determined because, we're going to do it. Anyway. Thank you for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great afternoon.